On July 30th, 2013, St. Lucia became the ninth state to take full membership in ALBA. ALBA is described as an international cooperation organization based on the idea of the social, political, and economic integration of the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean, a grouping that brings benefits to member countries by way of soft loans and support. But there is another school of thought. ALBA is nothing more but an anti-US bloc that poses a threat to stability, social and political, in the hemisphere. The fact that Iran, Syria, along with Haiti, hold observer status is frightening to many. Among them, the opposition United Workers' Party. Leader Alan Chastanet has been bold in his analysis that the recent penalty handed down to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force is a direct consequence of St. Lucia joining the ALBA grouping. According to Chastanet, the fact that Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony failed to attend a meeting with U.S. Vice President Joe Biden in Trinidad earlier this year, opting to go to Cuba instead, was an insult and viewed as such by the U.S. We sat down with the UWP leader for a clearer understanding of his argument as we continue our in-depth interview series on the strained relations between the U.S. and the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
If in fact what the Prime Minister said in his speech was correct, right, that the relationship he has with the U.S. is sacrosanct, and that the funds that they receive in terms of support for security is very, very important to the country, okay? You would have to think these things out. So I cannot believe that a government, and particularly a Prime Minister that are experienced as they are, would make such a junior mistake. So the fact is that we are taking actions, and I personally believe that this is a salvo to our bow, to say, hey, come see us and get these things resolved, because we're uncertain as to where you're going. Right? Because it is activities within the last 6 to 8 months that's tipped the scale here.
And you believe that with the Prime Minister not attending that meeting in Trinidad with Vice President Joe Biden, you speak about a shift, a dramatic shift in the voting pattern at the UN, that these two strong enough to have the U.S. become so drastic in its action?
There's a third change. The third change is that Hillary Clinton is no longer the Secretary of State, and John Kerry is. And obviously with every change of a Secretary of State comes a change in policy. So whereas maybe Hillary Clinton may be deemed as being more laissez-faire, John Kerry is not. And so, you know, it's for us to understand that. So look, this can be a catastrophic step for St. Lucia if it is not dealt with immediately. And what do I mean by that? I don't think St. Lucians clearly understand the extent that our police force depends on the U.S. government as to how many millions of dollars that are pumped into our police force, both here locally, the radar systems, the regional support, everything else. St. Lucia cannot afford, because we don't have any replacement to that right now.
Not even from the UK and Canada and other sources.
Nobody,
it will not be able to match up.
There's nobody who can be able to match up to that. There's no one. You know, and this can, if left unbaited, and I'm talking about, you know, no more than 6 months, we could start seeing that our security is going to be compromised.
But we've seen all of these other islands be part of ALBA, and we have certainly not heard of any such actions taken against the administration.
Well, yet. There is a bill that is being presented by both a Democrat and a Republican that is calling for official sanctions by the U.S. government against ALBA states. Now, I think that the U.S. government was sitting back because ALBA was designed, and you know, people try to think I don't understand the difference between ALBA and Petro-Carib. ALBA is the policy agreement, Petro-Carib is the commercial agreement, but they're two intertwined. You cannot access Petro-Carib
But
monies.
one came before the other.
ALBA came
was
first.
in existence
ALBA
before.
is a replacement because Chavez was upset with the OAS, okay? And that he felt that the OAS was a pawn of the U.S. government, and that he wanted to be able to develop an organization that was truly a Caribbean, Central America, and Latin American group. the vast majority of the members of Central America, Latin America, and Caribbean were not members of ALBA and still are not members of ALBA. There seems to be a common thread. Countries that are in dire need of cash are the ones that are going to ALBA in order to be able to get access to Petrocarib. And I think that there, some people have not adopted all of the hardcore rhetoric, because ALBA was clearly an entity to be anti-American.
So what is the threat in wanting to be part of a grouping where you can be able to source funding for your nations, be able to access certain support mechanisms? Where's the threat in that for the U.S.?
The threat is that this is in the belly of America. So the ties to ALBA and Iran and Syria and deeper terrorist groups, the rhetoric that's practiced. So all of a sudden, to become a member of ALBA, Dominica signed an agreement that said that they were going to kick USAID out of their country. So what's that? I mean, when you become part of the Western society, World Bank, IMF, CDB, because there's so much funding that are funded in CDB, there's no conditionalities other than financial conditionalities. So we're getting into a grouping that's now trying to dictate to us how we need to vote. And clearly it's working, because the same ALBA countries are voting in pattern at the UN. All right, now if you're the US, you have to sit back and look at all these things, and you have to ask yourself, what's going on? Now, would you continue supporting a country? So if in fact I can join ALBA and it's not going to impact the US, I'm all for it. If I'm going to join ALBA and there may be some, points that we have to debate and get worried out, then I'm all for it. But if it's going to be a point where I have to make a choice between, do I stay where I am or now join ALBA and lose what I have, then I have to sit back and take a stronger consideration of the decisions I'm making. Now, and more importantly, should any government, should any cabinet of any country have the power to make that decision by themselves? And in essence, that is what this government has said. In the response to my questions, right, I was told that there's no difference between ALBA and the CTO or FAO. I mean, this is absurd. This is disgusting that a government would believe that people would be so stupid that you're going to go to Petrocarib, you're going to borrow money, that you don't have to come to Parliament. After, when you were in opposition, you made so much noise over the Taiwanese funds as to whether it was public funds or not public funds. And in those cases with the Taiwanese funds, it was grant. This is a case where you're getting money that you're borrowing. There's a commitment that's being made to the country. So, I have grave concerns, and I think all St. Lucians should have grave concerns in the way that our business is being conducted and the decisions that are being made for us without our consultation.